Part 1 is to read data from a file. So to do this, we're going to write a function called ReadDataFromFile, and this has 6 parameters: a string that is the file name, 4 arrays that will contain the data, and then an integer that keeps track of the current location in the array. Both the arrays are going to change, right? We're going to read the data and store it in the arrays. So the arrays are going to change. As we add data, we're going to increase the index because there's one more valid piece of data in there. So we're going to increase the index. Those are going to change. So those will have to be passed by reference, and it returns a string. So that's the information we need to know about this function. And in the function.h file, add the function declaration. So let's go ahead and get our functions.h file set up. So we want to, put up our includes. So if not defined, and here we create a constant, functions_h. If that's not defined, then we want to define it. And this allows it that anything inside this definition will be created. Oops, how to spell that the same, correct? Anything in that definition will be created only one time, because once it's been defined, it won't be defined a second time. And then we'll do the end if. All right, so there we've protected it. We put those guards so that our header file won't be included more than once. And we need to set up these arrays, now, or set up the function. So the function, it said it was going to return a string. Now remember that we don't use using, right? Using namespace standard. So in the header file, we're going to have to do standard string. And now as soon as we're going to use it, that's our return type. We also need to #include the header file for the string class. So that's the return type, and the function name is ReadDataFromFile. And then we have lots of parameters that we need to define. Now there's one problem that comes up, and that is all of the parameters are, many of the parameters are arrays. So we're going to need to, #include array, and we're going to have to specify a size. So you see down here in the instructions, since the declaration will include arrays, we will need to specify how big they are. So add a constant integer named kMaxSize and set it to 32 first. So we're going to need that before we can actually do the parameters. So we're going to have a const int kMaxSize and set it equal to 32. All right, now we can do the parameters. For the first one is a string, and this is the file name. The next one is an array, and here we're going to want to include the array file, the array header file. And it's going to be, let's see what the first one is. The first one's of type double. And how big is it? It's kMaxSize big. And this is for the hours. Now, since it's going to be passed by reference, because this array is going to change, we're going to put the ampersand here and say, okay, that one, we're passing it by reference, which is a standard way to pass arrays, is by reference. We will not make it const because we're actually going to make changes to the array. And then the next one is also an array. And this one is of type char. So just a single character. It's also of kMaxSize. And we'll pass it by reference. And this is going to be the pay type. Third array is of type double. It's also kMaxSize big and passed by reference. And this is the pay rate. This is the amount of pay. And then the last one, no, the last array, not the last argument, right? The last array is of type string, and it's also kmax size. And it is by reference, and this is going to be the names array. All right, then the last parameter is the index of the current top of the current array location of where to add the next set of data. And so I'm just going to call this size. And this one also needs to be passed by reference because we're actually going to be changing that and be able to return it. All right, so we've set up our functions.h file, and we've done the prototype or the function declaration for the read data from file.